You probably clicked because the title sounds terrifying. If you have this on your phone, you will be arrested by immigration. That kind of headline grabs attention because the border is one of the moments where normal privacy rules change and the consequences of what's on your device can suddenly feel enormous. Let's be clear from the start. The truth is rarely as absolute as you will be arrested, but the risk is real that certain content or digital traces can trigger detention, questioning, denial of entry, or criminal investigation. First, forged documents and counterfeit IDs. If an immigration officer finds images, scanned files, or apps that contain fake passports, forged visas, altered identity documents, or counterfeit resident cards on your phone, this can be instant cause for detention and referral to criminal investigation. Border officials treat document fraud seriously because it's directly tied to attempts to circumvent immigration controls. Even a photo of a forged ID saved for reference can be treated as evidence of intent to use it. That's why carrying, photographing, or storing falsified documents is an enormous risk. Second, child sexual abuse material, CSAM, or any sexual content involving minors. This is one of the clearest lines. Possession, distribution, or even images that suggest involvement in sexual exploitation of minors will almost always result in immediate arrest and criminal charges, often across jurisdictions. Immigration or border agents cooperate with criminal law enforcement on these issues. They have low tolerance and mandatory reporting obligations. If any content on a device could be interpreted as CSAM, photos, videos, messages, browser history, officials will seize the device, detain the traveler, and begin criminal proceedings. Third, evidence of involvement with organized crime or trafficking. Border agents look for signs that a person is engaged in smuggling, human trafficking, drug trafficking, or other organized criminal activity. This can include communications with known traffickers, photos or messages arranging travel for someone under false pretenses, photos of packages and routes, bank screenshots showing suspicious transfers, or apps used to coordinate illicit activity. Even encrypted messaging records or contact lists with suspicious phone numbers can trigger referral to criminal investigators and create grounds for detention. Immigration authorities often share intelligence with other law enforcement bodies. If your phone suggests involvement in smuggling networks, expect severe consequences. Fourth, evidence of terrorism or extremist activity. Phones that contain recruitment material, communications with extremist groups, or materials that suggest involvement in violent extremism raise immediate security concerns. Many countries have counterterrorism units at ports of entry. If content is discovered that suggests support for, membership in, or contact with extremist organizations, immigration agents will detain the traveler and involve national security agencies. This is one of those categories where the state's response can be swift and uncompromising because it is about public safety. Fifth, false or misleading social media that conflicts with your story. Border officials routinely investigate inconsistencies between a traveler's stated plans and online traces. For example, you claim a short tourist visit, but your phone shows months of job-seeking messages, employment contracts, or dozens of long-term accommodation bookings. You say you're visiting friends, but your phone shows organized recruitment for work, job offers, or compensation. These discrepancies can lead to secondary inspection. While one inconsistent photo is not necessarily cause for arrest, patterns of deception discovered on a device, evidence you intended to misrepresent purpose of travel or immigration intent, can lead to denial of entry and possible referral for immigration fraud charges. Sixth, evidence of unreported criminal convictions or outstanding warrants. A phone that contains legal documents, police records, or messages discussing criminal activity may alert officers that the traveler has unresolved legal issues. If a person is subject to an outstanding warrant, traveling with information that reveals identity or past offenses can lead to arrest. Even if the alleged crime occurred abroad, many countries have extradition arrangements or international notices. Border agents are particularly alert to anything that suggests a traveler may be evading justice. Seventh, undeclared work and employment evidence. If you're entering on a tourist visa, but your phone has invoices, Job platforms showing you've been offering paid services, messages from employers confirming paid gigs, or bank transfers for work done in the destination country. Immigration officials may decide you intend to work contrary to visa conditions. The result might not be criminal charges, but it can be detention, deportation, bans on re-entry, and severe disruption of plans. Working in violation of visa rules is a common reason for removal. Eighth, images or data that suggest intent to overstay or settle illegally. This is more subtle and situational, but still important. If your phone has searches about how to obtain residence without a visa, forums on illegal migration routes, instructions on bypassing immigration systems, or correspondence with smugglers, you're signaling intent to remain unlawfully. That can seriously influence the outcome of an encounter with immigration officials. Even browsing history, screenshots, or saved documents discussing illegal pathways can be used as evidence. Ninth, extremely large undeclared transfers or financial evidence tied to illicit funds. Screenshots of money transfers, cryptocurrency addresses linked to scams, or receipts from money laundering channels can escalate a routine immigration stop into a financial crimes investigation. Immigration enforcement often works with customs and financial crime units. If your phone indicates involvement in suspicious financial flows, expect detention and seizure. 10th, apps or tools used to facilitate illegal border crossings, sophisticated route planning, encrypted coordination platforms explicitly aimed at smuggling, or drone control apps used for illicit importation. Possession of such specialized utilities, especially with logs or messages that show intent, can lead to arrest and criminal charges. Now that we've covered categories that commonly raise red flags, let's discuss some important practical realities and rights. First, border agents often have broader search authority than typical police inside the country. In many jurisdictions, border and immigration authorities have the legal ability to inspect electronic devices at ports of entry without a warrant. The rules vary by country, but many enforcers use this power to check phones, laptops, and drives. Even if a search is not mandatory in law, officers may still ask to inspect devices. Refusing can have consequences, including denial of entry or device seizure. This does not mean you should surrender your rights. It means you should be strategic, informed, and calm. Second, encryption and passcodes complicate things. Giving an officer a locked phone can create suspicion. Refusing to unlock it might lead to detention or legal consequences in some places. Many countries allow forced access through legal orders. Others impose penalties for refusal. Recently, some courts have pushed back on blanket powers to force passcode disclosure, but legal status is mixed internationally. If you travel frequently, a lawyer can advise on best practices for your specific jurisdiction. Never assume a single rule applies everywhere. Third, metadata and cloud backups matter. Even if you delete content, traces often remain in backups. The cloud or service logs, photos synced to cloud storage, messages archived in email, or chat history stored on remote servers can be accessed by investigators with authority. Deleting something shortly before travel may look suspicious if footprints remain. The better practice is to avoid creating risky content in the first place and to keep sensitive professional or legal documents off consumer devices that you would carry through border control. Fourth, social media is a minefield. Posts, check-ins, event RSVP, and uploaded stories can reveal travel intent, employment plans, or associations. If you publish content that contradicts your stated immigration status, like qualifying job offers, long-term housing contracts, or statements about moving permanently, officials can and do use that publicly available material as evidence in immigration decisions. Clean up public profiles well before travel if you're worried, and be mindful of what you post while immigration processes are pending. Fifth, cooperate respectfully but thoughtfully. If asked questions, be honest and concise. Avoid volunteering information beyond what's asked. If you're unsure about legal rights at a specific checkpoint or have concerns about a question that touches on legal exposure, you can request to speak with an attorney. How that request is handled varies, and in many immigration interviews, you may be expected to answer basic admissibility questions before a lawyer is consulted. Still, politely asserting your desire for legal counsel in the face of serious accusations is a reasonable step. Sixth, prepare documentation. The more legitimate supporting documents you can provide, return tickets, proof of funds, employer letters, invitation letters from hosts, rental bookings, or evidence of ties to home country, the easier it is to counter narratives of illegal intent. A clean, consistent story backed by documentation is the strongest defense in an immigration encounter. Seventh, if you are a non-citizen worried about migration enforcement, consider pre-travel legal planning. An immigration attorney can advise whether to carry certain records, how to respond to inspection requests, and whether to create a travel-specific device or a device with minimal personal content. Some people choose to travel with a clean device that contains only necessary travel documents and essential contacts, but be warned, deliberately sanitizing a phone right before a border crossing can also look suspicious to authorities, especially if there's evidence of rapid deletion. Eighth, understand that mere presence of certain things does not automatically equal guilt. Context matters. A photo of a large pile of cash could be business revenue rather than illicit funds. A message from a stranger could be innocent. However, officials make decisions based on the totality of circumstances. Multiple indicators combined, contradictory statements, suspicious contacts, suspicious financial evidence are more likely to trigger detention and deeper investigation than a single ambiguous item. Ninth, if a device is seized, avoid trying to remotely wipe it from afar. Remote deletion after seizure can be interpreted as obstruction or evidence tampering. Similarly, do not tell investigators you deleted files intentionally to hide wrongdoing. That choice often has legal consequences. If your device is taken, seek legal counsel immediately to understand possible remedies. 10th, maintain digital hygiene long before travel. Consider separating work and personal devices. Keep sensitive professional data on secure company-managed hardware with policies in place. Avoid storing illicit, compromising, or legally risky material on devices you take abroad. Know the law of the country you are entering regarding device searches and data. At this point, it's worth addressing a few myths. Myth 1. If I'm a citizen, agents can do whatever they want. While citizens generally have stronger constitutional protections in many nations, certain border search exceptions still apply and searches can be intrusive. However, citizens typically have the right to re-entry and stronger legal remedies if a search violates fundamental rights. Myth 2. If I delete something, it's gone. Digital deletions are rarely irreversible. Backups, cloud sync, and forensic tools can recover data. Myth 3. If it's on my device, it proves guilt. Not always. Context and corroboration are necessary, but possession of certain content may be probable cause for further action. We also need to talk about the human element. Border crossings are stressful moments. Officers are trained to look for inconsistencies and violate none of your rights, but practice and tone matter. Being confrontational rarely helps. Calmly asserting your rights and documenting the encounter. Note badge numbers, time, and what was taken can be important later. If you believe your rights were violated, file a complaint with the relevant agency and contact counsel. Each of those hypotheticals shows that the stakes are high and the best course is prevention and lawfulness. So what practical steps should you take today? 1. Audit what's on the device you plan to travel with. Remove anything that is illegal, compromising, or unnecessary for travel. 2. Keep travel documents, proof of ties to your home country, and contact information for a lawyer in a separate, easily accessible place. Paper copies remain important. 3. Avoid posting or publicizing plans that contradict your visa or stated purpose of travel. 4. If you expect to be questioned on sensitive matters, consult an immigration attorney before travel and consider their specific guidance about device content. 5. Understand the law where you enter. Search powers at the border vary widely, and prepare accordingly. 6. If detained, stay calm. Assert your right to counsel if needed and avoid voluntary oversharing. Finally, let's be realistic about fear versus preparation. Sensational headlines promise instant arrest, but the real world is a mix of law, policy, technology, and human judgment. Many travelers pass borders every day without issue. Still, the consequences of risky content on a phone can be devastating. Arrest, criminal charges, deportation, permanent bars from re-entry, and long-term reputational damage. Being cautious, informed, and lawful is not paranoia. It's simple prudence. If this overview was helpful, consider sharing it with friends who travel a lot, because the moment at the border is not only legal, it's deeply human, and being prepared spares families from preventable tragedy. And if you're facing an immediate issue with immigration authorities, get a lawyer. Fast. Laws change, situations are unique, and professional guidance can make the difference between a frightening stop and an avoidable catastrophe.